March is here. Open your eyes to it. Let the first morning of this new month land on you fully before you do anything else. Before the phone, before the news, before the first obligation of the day begins assembling itself in your mind with its usual efficiency. Before any of that, just this, the first morning of March, the specific, unrepeatable, never going to happen again quality of this exact moment when a new month begins and the air has something in it that February did not have. Something new is possible today that was not possible yesterday. Not because the calendar changed and the calendar changes magic, but because every genuine new beginning carries in it a specific grace that the middle of things does not have. The grace of the fresh start, the grace of the open page, the grace of the person who has been walking through a difficult winter and who wakes up on the first morning of March and feels somewhere below the thinking, below the managing, below the competent adult who knows that March is just a word and the problems of February follow you across the calendar. Below all of that, something that feels like possibility. That feeling is not naive. That feeling is theologically accurate, because the God who makes all things new, who said in Revelation, I am making everything new, not I made everything new once a long time ago, but I am making present tense, continuous, ongoing, that God does not wait for the dramatic moment to do his making new. He does it in the ordinary threshold moments, in the first morning of the month, in the first breath after the prayer, in the small, daily, unheroic turning of the person who wakes up and decides again to walk in his direction. He is making things new this morning, including you, including whatever you brought out of February that you are carrying into March. Come, let me tell you about this morning. I want to start with something that happened a long time ago that I think is the perfect image for the first morning of March in the middle of a Lenten season. Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Darkness over the surface of the deep. I want you to stay with that image for a moment, because I think it describes something that is true about where some of you are this morning. Not the darkness of despair exactly, the darkness of the not yet. The darkness of the person who is in the middle of something, in the middle of the Quaresma, in the middle of a difficult season, in the middle of a year that has already asked hard things and that has not yet shown them what the asking was for. Darkness over the surface of the deep. And then the next sentence. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Hovering. The Hebrew word is merachaphet. It is a beautiful word. It means to hover, to brood, to move gently back and forth over something with the specific attention of a bird over her eggs, not the frantic movement of something trying to fix a problem. The patient, deliberate, tender hovering of something that knows what it is doing and is doing it carefully. The Spirit of God was hovering over the chaos, not absent from it, not watching it from a comfortable distance, hovering over it, present to it, attending to it with the full, focused, loving attention of the one who is about to bring something extraordinary out of the darkness and the formlessness and the deep. And then he spoke, "Let there be light." I want to give you that image for this first morning of March, because I think the Spirit of God has been hovering over your February, over the 12 days of Quaresma that led here, over the things that were difficult, and the things that slipped, and the prayers that felt thin, and the weight that accumulated, and whatever specific darkness your February contained. He has been hovering over all of it with the patient, brooding, completely attentive presence of the one who knows exactly what he is doing, even when the person in the middle of the formlessness cannot see the plan from the inside. He has been hovering, and this morning, the first morning of March, the first morning of the second week of Lent, the morning after the month turned, this morning he is speaking again. Let there be light. let there be something new. Let there be March. Now let me tell you something about the title of this prayer, because I mean it literally and I want to explain why. God has been waiting all night for this moment, not in the passive, sitting and doing nothing way that the word waiting sometimes implies, in the active, attentive, already preparing way that the gospel describes when it talks about what God does while we sleep. Think about the father in the parable of the prodigal son. The son leaves, he goes to the far country, he wastes everything, and at some point he comes to himself and decides to go back. And while he is still a long way off, his father sees him while he is still a long way off. How does a father see a son who is still a long way off? Because the father has been watching the road, not occasionally, consistently, with the specific, aching, hoping attentiveness of a parent who has not stopped looking for the child who left, who goes to the door every morning, who scans the horizon every evening, who does not stop watching because the watching is an expression of a love that does not stop. The Father has been watching all night, and when the morning comes, when the son who has been in the far country finally turns toward home, the Father does not receive the news calmly and go to meet the son at his convenience. He runs, he runs. That is the image I want to give you for this first morning of March. God has been watching all night, watching the turning of the month, watching the 11 days of your Quaresma with the specific, personal, completely focused attention of the Father, who has not stopped looking for the child even when the child was not aware of being looked for. Waiting for the morning when you would open your eyes in March, when the new month would begin and the new day would be available, and the specific, fresh, never been used before grace of March 1st would be there waiting for you to receive it. He has been waiting, not with impatience, with the loving readiness of the Father at the window. And now the morning is here, and he is running. Let me tell you about a man I knew named Alejandro. He was 47. He worked in logistics. He had been away from the church for almost 15 years. Not dramatically. He had not left in anger or in theological crisis or because of a specific wound. He had simply, gradually, over the course of the busy years of building a career and raising children, allowed the faith to drift to the periphery until one day he noticed it was no longer there at all. He came back, as many people come back, through a crisis. His mother's illness, the specific kind of crisis that a mother's illness produces in a person who is 47 and who realizes, sitting in a hospital room, watching the woman who taught him to pray struggling to breathe, that he has not prayed in years and that this particular moment is exactly the kind of moment prayer was invented for, and he does not know how to pray anymore. He started going back to Mass, awkwardly, like a person returning to a house they grew up in and finding that the furniture has been rearranged. He recognized the structure, but the ease was gone. He knew the words, but they did not yet feel like his words. He was in the building, but he did not yet feel at home in it. He decided to do Lent, his first real Lent in 15 years. And he came to see me around day 11 or 12, somewhere in this exact territory, and he said something that I think a lot of people feel but do not say out loud. He said, "I feel like I came back to something that has moved on without me. Like the relationship was real when I was young, and then I left, and now I am trying to come back, and I do not know if the door is still open or if God has reasonably moved on." I looked at him. I said, "Alejandro, I want to tell you something about the God you are describing. He is the Father in Luke 15, the one whose Son left and who did not close the door and who did not move on, and who was at the window on the morning the Son came back, and who ran, not walked, ran, before the Son had finished the speech he had prepared. Before the Son had demonstrated sufficient remorse or sufficient change of behavior or sufficient evidence that the coming back was genuine, before any of that, the Father ran. I said, "You have been gone 15 years, God has not been sitting here for 15 years thinking, well, I gave him his chance and he did not take it. He has been at the window every morning, watching the road, waiting for exactly this, for the morning you woke up and decided to come back. For the first morning of March of the Quaresma, you decided to walk seriously for the first time in 15 years. He is running toward you right now, not toward the version of you that has 15 years of faithful mass attendance to show for itself, toward you, the actual you, the one who drifted and is coming back, the one who does not yet feel at home but is in the house, the one whose prayer is still awkward but is a prayer. Alejandro cried not because the situation was resolved, because something landed that he had been afraid to hope was true, that the door was not just open, that the Father was running. I want to give you that this morning. Whatever your version of the 15 years is, whatever the distance is between the you that is here today and the you that you think you should be by now, whatever February contained that makes you arrive at March feeling like you are behind or inadequate or not doing this right, the door is not just open. The Father is running. He has been running since the moment you turned. I want to talk about March specifically for a moment, because there is something about the first month of meteorological spring, even if where you are it does not yet look like spring. Even if the ground is still cold and the trees are still bare, there is something about March that the tradition of the Church has always understood as the month of the approach of Easter. Lent is a journey towards something, not just the 40 days for their own sake, toward Easter, toward the resurrection, toward the specific world-changing, history-splitting moment when the tomb that should have been the end of the story turned out to be the beginning of a different story. The story that changes what death means and what life means and what the suffering of the in-between means. March is the month when Easter starts to become visible on the horizon. Not today, not yet, but the horizon is there. You can feel it beginning, somewhere in the structure of the season. The days are getting longer, slowly, one small increment at a time, almost imperceptibly, but the light is returning. The darkness of the winter is beginning, barely and gradually, to retreat. That is March. And the Quaresma in March has a different quality from the Quaresma in February. In February, you are establishing, building the habit, learning what the commitment actually costs in the real conditions of the real life. In March, you begin, slowly, not dramatically, 1 degree at a time, to move toward the destination. The desert is still long, the middle is still the middle, but somewhere in the structure of March, if you are paying attention, you can begin to feel that the journey is going somewhere, that the walking has direction, that Easter is not a wish, but a destination that is with every day becoming slightly closer. That is what the first morning of March carries, not the arrival, the beginning of the orientation toward the arrival. And that is no small thing. Let me take you to a moment in the Gospel that I think is the perfect companion for the first morning of March in the second week of Lent. John chapter 20, the morning of the resurrection. Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb while it is still dark. While it is still dark. I want you to feel the courage of that. She comes while it is still dark because she cannot wait for the light, because the grief and the love are too urgent to wait for sunrise, because she needs to be near the place where he was, even if the place where he was is now a sealed tomb, even if the being near it produces nothing except the proximity of grief. She comes while it is still dark, and then she finds the tomb empty, and she runs to get Peter and John, and they come and see, and they go back home. But Mary stays. She stays at the empty tomb and she weeps, and while she is weeping, she looks into the tomb and she sees 2 angels. And they ask her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She says, "They have taken my Lord and I do not know where they have put him." And then she turns around and Jesus is standing there. But she does not recognize him. She thinks he is the gardener. And he asks her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Who is it you are looking for?" And she says, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." And then Jesus says one word, "Mary," just her name, and everything changes. In the saying of her name, she knows. Not gradually, immediately. The voice saying her name, her specific name in the specific way that only someone who truly knows you says your name. That voice cuts through the grief and the confusion and the not recognizing, and she knows. It is him. He is alive. I want to give you that image for this first morning of March because I think Jesus is doing the same thing this morning that he did at the tomb. He is saying your name, not out loud necessarily, in the interior, in the specific way that only the one who made you can say it, in the way that cuts through the grief and the confusion and the difficult February and the weight you carried out of one month into the next and the not quite recognizing of the presence that has been with you through all of it. He is saying your name right now in this prayer, in this first morning of March. Are you quiet enough to hear it? I want to speak now about something that I think is particularly important for the first morning of a new month in the middle of a Quaresma. Something that the turning of the calendar makes uniquely available, the chance to begin again without guilt. I know that some of you are carrying February with you. Not the good parts, those are easy to carry. The parts that did not go the way you intended, the commitment that slipped, the morning prayer that was skipped more times than you wanted to skip it, the fast that had more gaps than it was supposed to have, the interior engagement that was thinner than the beginning imagined it would be, the honest assessment of the first 11 days that includes some genuinely imperfect material. You are carrying that. And the enemy of the spiritual life, the one the tradition calls the accuser, wants you to carry it in a specific way, wants you to carry it as evidence, as proof that the Quaresma you are walking is inadequate, that the gap between your intention and your performance disqualifies the effort, that you should feel guilty enough about February that the guilt itself becomes an obstacle to March, that you should arrive at the new month diminished and apologetic and slightly defeated, carrying the weight of what did not work as a burden rather than as information. That is a lie. And I want to name it as a lie this morning because the first morning of March is exactly the moment when this particular lie is most likely to be offered. Here is the truth. The mercy is new every morning. Jeremiah said it from inside the ruins of Jerusalem. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. New every morning means they were new on the first morning of Lent, and they were new on the 5th morning, and on the 9th and on the 11th, and they are new right now, on the first morning of March. And they will be new tomorrow and every morning between here and Easter and every morning after Easter for the rest of your life. New, not recycled from the day before, not the leftover grace of yesterday redistributed across today. New, made fresh, specific to this morning, specific to the person you are right now after 11 days of desert, carrying what you are carrying, beginning March with what you have. You do not need to carry February as a weight. You can carry it as a teacher because the imperfect 11 days have taught you something. They have shown you where the commitment is strongest and where it is most vulnerable. They have revealed something about the interior that the comfortable days before Lent could not have revealed. They have built something, however invisible the building seems from the inside, and the building continues today. In March, in the new mercy that is available right now, February was a teacher. March is a fresh page. Begin it from here, not from guilt, from grace. There is something else I want to say about this specific morning, something that is true about the first day of any month, but that is particularly true about the first day of March in the middle of Lent. Every good beginning in Scripture happens in the morning. The manna in the desert came in the morning. Exodus 16. The people of Israel woke up and found it there on the ground waiting every morning, specific to the day. Exactly what was needed for the day, not storable. If they tried to keep it for the next day, it would spoil, because the provision was designed to produce daily dependence, daily trust, daily return to the one who was providing. Every morning the manna came. Every morning was a new provision. Every morning was an invitation to trust again. The resurrection happened in the morning, not in the afternoon, not in the evening, not in the comfortable middle of the day, in the morning. While it was still dark, Mary came. And in the morning the stone was already rolled away, and the tomb was already empty, and the death that had seemed final was already reversed. The morning is when God moves, not exclusively. He is not confined to the morning. He moves in the afternoon and the evening, in the middle of the night, and every moment of every hour. But the morning has a specific quality in Scripture, a specific association with the new thing, with the fresh start, with the provision that was not there yesterday and is here today. And this morning, the first morning of March, is that morning for you. The manna is on the ground. Go and gather it. Let me tell you about something that St. Augustine wrote. Augustine, who spent his early life running from God in every direction available to him, who tried everything the world offered in the hope that it would fill the specific interior emptiness that nothing except God was designed to fill, who arrived at the faith not through a comfortable intellectual journey, but through a desperate and long and painful search that ended with him on his knees in a garden weeping. That Augustine wrote this: "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. Our heart is restless until it rests in you." I want to give you that sentence for March, not as a diagnosis of what is wrong with you, as a description of what is right with you. Because the restlessness, the specific, persistent, can't quite be satisfied quality of the human interior that Augustine describes, that restlessness is not a malfunction. It is the homing signal. It is the interior compass pointing in the direction of the only thing that can actually satisfy it. The restlessness points toward God, and the Quaresma, the 40 days of stripping away, of fasting, of prayer, of creating interior space by removing the things that have been filling it. The Quaresma is the season when the restlessness is allowed to be what it is without being immediately drowned in the usual substitutes. When the phone is set down and the noise is reduced, and the fast has created a hunger that the usual food cannot satisfy, and the hunger points, if you are paying attention, toward the thing the hunger is actually about, which is not food, which was never food, which is the presence of the God who made the interior specifically shaped to receive him, and who has been hovering over the deep of your February, and who speaks this first morning of March and says, "Let there be light. Let there be something new. Let there be March. Let there be the rest that your restless heart has been searching for all along." Our heart is restless until it rests in you. Let it rest today, even for a moment, even just in this prayer. Let the restlessness stop running and let it rest in the one it has been running toward all along. Lord, it is the first morning of March, and I want to begin it right, not with the guilt of February, not with the weight of 11 imperfect days carried as evidence against myself, not with the diminished posture of someone who arrived at the new month feeling like they are behind. I want to begin it the way Mary began the first morning of Easter, coming to the tomb while it is still dark, before I am fully sure what I will find, before the light has completely arrived, just coming. Because the love and the grief and the longing are too urgent to wait for the comfortable moment. I am coming this morning, Lord, before I have it all together, before the March version of myself has been assembled into whatever it is going to be, before I know what this month is going to contain, just coming to the place where you are, to the morning of the new month that you have been waiting all night to give to me. And I want to receive something this morning that I have not always let myself receive. The running. The father running toward the returning son, running before the son finished the speech he had prepared. Righteous, running before any demonstration of sufficient change had been offered. Running because the coming back itself, the turning, the facing in the right direction, the decision to come home, was enough to set the father in motion. I am facing in the right direction this morning. That is what I have. The facing, the decision to begin march walking toward you rather than away from you. The intention to give the next 29 days of this Quaresma something more honest than I have always managed to give. The willingness to bring the real interior to the real God rather than the managed version to the performance of prayer. That is what I have, and I trust that it is enough to set you running, because that is who you are. And Lord, for Alejandro, who came back after 15 years and who stood in the middle of the returning feeling like maybe the door had closed, tell him that you were at the window the whole 15 years, that the watching never stopped, that the morning he turned toward home was the morning you started running and have not stopped. For everyone who is beginning March with the specific courage of the person who has been away and is coming back, whether away for 15 years or 15 days or 15 minutes of a prayer where the mind was somewhere else entirely, whether away in the dramatic sense or the quiet drift sense, whether away through sin or through busyness or through the slow accumulation of the ordinary life covering the interior life until it was no longer visible. Coming back is coming back, and you run toward every version of it. And for the people who are beginning March tired, who have been faithful through the 11 days, but who are running on the quiet decision rather than the inspired feeling, and who are not entirely sure how they are going to sustain another 29 days of the decision. Give them the manna, the specific daily, this morning only provision that does not come in bulk and cannot be stored, but that is there every morning, exactly enough for the day, made fresh, new, waiting on the ground before they wake up. Let them find it this morning. Let them discover that March has its own provision that February did not have, that the grace of the new month is real and specific and designed for the person they are right now, after 11 days of desert, not the person they were on Ash Wednesday. That the manna is on the ground and it is enough, and they do not have to figure out how to make it last for 29 days. They just have to gather enough for today, just today. That is the whole of what March is asking this morning. And for everyone who woke up this morning and felt somewhere below the thinking, the specific quality of possibility that the first morning of a new month carries, even when they could not name what they were feeling. For the ones who sensed that something was available today that was not quite available yesterday. For the ones who woke up and the first thought was not the problem, but the possibility. Tell them they were right. Something is available today that was not available yesterday, not because the calendar is magic, because you have been waiting all night to give it to them, and the giving has already begun, new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. March is yours. We are yours. Begin something in us today that February was preparing for but could not yet contain. We are ready. Or if we are not ready, we are here, which is the same thing in your economy. We are here. Begin. Amen. The prayer is finished. March is beginning. I want you to take 3 slow breaths before the day starts. Not as a technique, as a reception, 3 deliberate, unhurried, received breaths that acknowledge that the air of this new month is a gift, and that the morning is a gift, and that the 29 days ahead are a gift, and that the God who made them all is not watching to see whether you use them perfectly, but running toward you in the using of them however you manage. He is running right now, before you finish reading this, before you put down the phone or the tablet, before the day begins and the list assembles and the ordinary Wednesday of the first week of March takes you in the direction it is going to take you. He is already running, and he is going to arrive before you expect him in the ordinary moment of the ordinary day, in the conversation that takes an unexpected turn, in the scripture verse that lands somewhere it did not land before. In the quality of the afternoon light that suddenly looks different from how it looked yesterday, as if something has shifted in how you are seeing, as if the 12 days of Lent have cleaned a small portion of the glass through which everything is filtered. He is going to arrive. Watch for him today. He is already running. Go meet him. March is yours, and so is he. Happy March.